Welcome to another cool tale. One troubled warrior must face the darkness of the voices in her head and venture into the depths of hell to save the soul of her dead lover. This is the tale of Hellblade, Senua's sacrifice. As always, beware of spoilers and enjoy the story. In the late 8th century, Senua, a picked warrior, travels north to a land of mist and fog on a small boat. After making her way through a river filled with dead corpses, she arrives at the shores of Helheim, the Norse realm of the dead. Senua suffers from a form of psychosis that causes her to perceive voices whispering to her, as well as suffer from vivid hallucinations.
No one will ever know. Oh, she heard us.
Not knowing it is a medical condition, Senua believes she suffers from a curse that causes her to hear the voices of spirits in her head. The voices in her head tell her to go back home, but she realizes that there is no turning back and kicks her boat away. She begins to venture deeper into the woods and comes across the bridge to Helheim. Senua is on a quest to save the soul of her dead lover, and she is carrying his severed head to use as a vessel for his soul. She wishes to bargain with Hela, the ruler of Helheim, and win back the soul of her lover. As she travels further inside, she is greeted by her memories of the stories of Druth, a former slave of the Norsemen. Well versed in their legends, Druth had become her friend and mentor during a year-long self-imposed exile. Reaching the entrance to Helheim, Senua tries to force the gates open, but they won't budge. She suddenly hears an unfamiliar voice call out to her. The voice appears to be the Shadow, a dark and overwhelming inner voice at the core of the curse. It degrades Senua and attempts to emotionally manipulate her. As she tries to resist, she finds her right arm slowly starting to rot as her flesh becomes corrupted. Her entire body becomes consumed by it as she falls dead to the ground. Only for Senua to realize it is a vision of what would happen. Senua's right arm really is infested with rot, and the voices tell her that it's only a matter of time before she suffers the same fate. As Senua kneels in front of the gates with the skull of her lover, the voices instruct her that in order to open the gates, she must defeat the gods that guard it, the god of fire Surt and the god of illusion Volraven. Senua decides to confront Volraven first as she enters the dark woods filled with illusions. Volraven ambushes her and drags her around, as the voices tell her to use the iron mirror to see the truth.
Focus!
I see!
By using the mirror, Senua manages to see through the illusions and slays Volraven. On her way back, she sees a vision of her mother. She tells Senua that she will guide her and to not be afraid of what lies ahead. When Senua confronts the fire god Surt, the entire forest seems to go up in a blaze. Senua finds herself running for her life, but she falls victim to the fire as the flames engulf her. After facing a vision of her dead lover, Senua regains her senses and confronts Surt, who is waiting in his throne. At the end of the brutal battle, Senua slays the burning god and spills his blood. Druth tells her that there will be no end to the battles she must face and asks her to be ready for the horrors of hell. With both gods defeated, Senua opens the gate to hell but finds nothing but darkness. The shadow voice taunts and tortures Senua, telling her that her quest is futile. Senua starts walking towards the light and comes to what appears to be her home village. A few months ago, when Senua returned home, she found that her village had been attacked by the Northmen. She discovered her lover, sacrificed in a gruesome display of a blood eagle to the Norse gods, and suffered a psychotic breakdown.
No!
As the visions of the past end, the shadow continues to mock her efforts, and Senua finds herself in front of the bridge to Helheim. But as she crosses the bridge, she is confronted by Hela herself. Senua's confidence wavers at seeing the source of her darkness. As a result, her sword is shattered and she is knocked off the bridge by Hela. Barely surviving the encounter, Senua cauterizes a head wound as the voices inside her continue to berate her. She wakes up to the voice of her lover and follows a light to a great tree. She is reminded of the time she first met her lover in the bright woods. The vision soon turns gloomy as the tree is now on fire with corpses hanging from its branches.
Senua knows that there's no going back to how things were.
Upon closer inspection, Senua finds the sword Graham stuck within the tree. Druth informs Senua that Graham is a legendary sword, said to be strong enough to kill gods such as Hela. When she tries to pry it from the tree, she is overwhelmed by the voices and the darkness surrounding her. To obtain it, she must complete the 4 trials of Odin, which are related to her past and test her body, spirit, and mind. The trials force Senua to face her fears and past demons. At a young age, Senua's psychosis manifested itself in visions that only she could see, an ailment she shared with her mother. Though her mother tried to show Senua that her sight was a special thing, her devoutly religious father saw their conditions as darkness, a curse from the gods that would doom them all. To appease those gods, her father killed her mother by burning her alive. Senua witnessed the event when she was just 5 years old, which caused her psychosis to worsen significantly and forced her to block out the memory. Her father, convincing her that she was tainted with evil, abused Senua emotionally and physically, and isolated her from the rest of the world until she met her lover, Dillion. The two fell in love, and Senua left her father to be with him, as he saw her as merely misunderstood instead of cursed. Upon facing her past fears and completing all 4 trials, Senua successfully removes the sword from the tree. This infuriates the Shadow, as Senua is forced to remember more events from her past. After Senua left her home, she had lived many happy years with Dillion by her side. However, after a plague broke out in Senua's village and killed many, including Dillion's father, Senua began to wonder whether she was truly cursed.
You have blood on your hands.
The Shadow casts Senua into an apocalyptic place called the Sea of Corpses, asserting that Senua is responsible for the death around her. Guided by the voice of her deceased mother, Senua makes her way through the bloody river. She escapes from the Sea of Corpses, and with renewed strength and confidence, she makes her way back towards Helheim. Upon entering the mountain where the bridge to Helheim is, Senua is stalked in the darkness by a new enemy.
What's in there?
The Shadow informs Senua that the underground caverns in which she is navigating are home to a giant beast named Garm who guards Helheim. As the beast only stalks her from the shadows, Senua uses the light from the torches to evade it. Unfortunately, Senua loses Dillion's head as it falls into an abyss at the center of the beast's lair. Needing Dillion's head to resurrect him, Senua journeys into the center of the monster's lair and faces it in single combat. Emerging victorious after a long battle, with Garm dead and the head reclaimed, the Shadow tells Senua that it has been trying to keep her from reaching Hela for her own safety, but believes she has fought hard enough to earn the right to see beyond the veil of the darkness. Leaving Garm's lair, Senua walks across the bridge and finally enters Helheim. Inside, Senua sees a mirror, and when she walks up to it, the voices in her head begin to shout at her. The voices do not want Senua to face Hela, fearing that they will die along with her. But Senua leaves them behind and walks on to enter Hela's sanctum.
Follow your soul and let go of the Senua of old. For there lies your weakness.
As she enters, Senua realizes that the Shadow is her mind's manifestation of her father, continuing to abuse her even years after her village was attacked. She then confronts Hela, as Hela herself speaks with the Shadow's voice and creates numerous obstacles to harm Senua. Despite being heavily wounded, Senua does her best to press forward and reaches Hela's platform. All her efforts appear to be futile, and when Senua is eventually overwhelmed, Hela kneels before her and takes her sword. Senua both curses and pleads with Hela, claiming she's not afraid of sacrificing her life to save Dillion, and begs Hela to set him free. After a whirlwind of emotions goes through her, she tells Hela that if Dillion cannot be saved, she has nothing left to live for. Hela obliges and impales Senua with her own sword. As Senua slumps to the ground, she recalls Dillion telling her of the importance of the acceptance of loss. Hela takes Dillion's head to the edge of the battleground and lets it fall into the abyss. As the camera pans back, Hela has become Senua, and the corpse on the ground has the appearance of Hela instead. But the guilt of losing Dillion finally lifted from her mind. Senua is able to accept that she is not responsible for the plague or her mother's death. She is also able to finally accept that the voices in her head are not a curse or a darkness, but simply a part of who she is. With the journey to put her past at rest at an end, Senua begins to walk away, stating that her story isn't quite finished yet. If you enjoyed this video, check out these other stories on the channel, and be sure to like and subscribe, and turn on notifications for new content every week. Thanks for watching, and I'll be seeing you in another cool tale.